Welcome children to this session of Standard 9 Subject Geography, Lesson number 6, Properties of Seawater. Children, to show the salinity, here the experiment has been given and which has been given in your textbook also. So I'm going to explain you this experiment. What exactly you people can also do it at home and try and just see this. So we are going to take a jar which is 1.5 liters of water in a big container. Put 100 gram of salt in it and stir it. As you can see, this salt packet is there. And pour the whole packet of the salt in it. Now take 3 containers of the same size. To identify them, put 3 dots of different colors on them. This is red color dots. This is something green, and this is what? Blue color. So 3 vessels are there in which this amount of water which has been poured in 3 different containers, and the salt which we have poured in that is 100 gram. But the water has been taken in 3 different dishes. Now, put the water containing salt equally in 3 containers. We are going to put this water in these 3 containers. 3 different containers with 3 different colors of dots because we need to identify where the actual experiment is taking place. Make sure that the containers are half empty after filling the water. They are not fully filled. See, you can see it is half filled. Taste the water out of the 3 containers. Taste the water out of the 3 containers. You need to taste all the 3 containers water first, and then keep one in the sun outside. Cover it with the mesh lid. You can see the mesh lid is here shown, netted lid. It's called as meshed lid. And then you have to take one of the jar, keep it outside in the sun, and the other 2 we are going to keep it in our home inside, which is not exposed to the sun rays. Now after 3 to 4 days, bring all the containers together at one place. Now observe the level of the water in all the 3 containers. Taste the water in all the 3 containers. Experience a difference in the taste. Write about the 3 tastes in 1 line each. What you are going to observe in this, see, the one which you have exposed to the sun outside out of the 3 will be totally dry, and the salt which we have put, it will give a light layer down of that salt which is settled down, a crush type. Okay, because salt gets dissolved in the water, but when we expose to the sun, water get evaporated and the salt gets settled down. That shows here. And in the other 2 containers in which we have taken same water, but we have covered it and kept it in room temperature, not exposed to the sun. What you will find is, the water is still there in that, less amount of water though, but the water is still there and it is salty to taste, whereas the one which was exposed outside, there won't be any salt in it because the salt has been evaporated from that. So this shows the salinity what we experience, like the sea water in which made in the pans, when it has been collected, water gets evaporated and the amount of salts remains there only. This is how it has been proved, children. As you can see, children, keeping the remaining 2 in the classroom, cover them with the net lids too. Put a half a glass of the fresh water daily in one of the containers in the classroom. Answer the following question. In which container has the water increased or decreased? Obviously, in the container which was kept in home and in which we were pouring the little bit of water every day, it will be having the more amount of water, that is the increase amount of water. And decrease will be in the one which is exposed to the sun, which is kept outside in the sun alone. Okay. What would be the reason behind the decrease or increase in the water? Increase in the water is because it is at the room temperature and the water level is not gone much down, whereas every day we were putting some fresh water in that. Whereas the one which was kept outside exposed to the sun, it is totally decreased. The water is not there in that because it was been exposed to the sun rays and water got evaporated and the layer of the salt will be left behind. What would be the reason behind the low and the high salinity of the water in the container? Because the low salinity one, it has been provided with the fresh water every day and the amount of salt kept on reducing. Whereas the one which was being exposed to outside the sun, in that the amount of water was being evaporated and salt gets settled down, so the salinity is higher. I hope so you must have understand. The same experiment has been carried out in the ocean, seas and the rivers too. experiment just now we have seen, children, it's a geographical explanation of the same experiment here. You must have realized that because of the sun's heat, evaporation happens at faster rate. Evaporated water turns into water vapor and reduces in quantity. But the amount of salt remains the same in the remaining water, and therefore the salinity of water increases. What you can see here is just the example of that in the image what is shown in the first one. When the oceans have been exposed to the sun, the rate of evaporation goes on very faster and the water gets reduced very easily. And what happens to the water, children? Water turns into the water vapor and when exposed to the sun rays. So the quantity of the salt remains the same, but the water amount become less, and as we can see in the image, the water is less here in the first image, and the lump of big salt has been collected on the side of the sea, and that's how it happens. When the amount of water is less and the amount of salt is more, then we can say that salinity is high, and the salt remains is more, water comes to very lesser rate because of the evaporation, and that increases the rate of the salinity. In sea, where the rate of evaporation is high, then the supply of fresh water salinity is high. In seas, where the supply of fresh water exceeds the rate of evaporation, salinity is low. Salinity is not affected much in the sea, where both the supply of fresh water need evaporation of water is low. So we come to know here, children, in the sea where the rate of evaporation is high and the amount of supply of fresh water is less, the salinity is high, because the water which is present, it gets evaporated on higher rate. So obviously the rate of salinity will be more because there is no more supply of fresh water. Whereas in the second case, in sea where the supply of fresh water exceeds, means it is more. So the rate of evaporation exceeds the rate of evaporation, then the salinity is low. Why? Because the supply of fresh water is more here. So supply of fresh water is more, the rate of evaporation is less. Okay, so salinity becomes low because amount of fresh water is more. So you cannot easily get the amount of salt present in the sea. And salinity is not affected much in the sea, where both the supply of fresh water and evaporation is, supply of fresh water is more and rate of evaporation is low, then the salinity is not at all affected, children. Now here we can see how is the salinity of the sea water measured. There are different equipments you can see in the image it has been given. This is for your extra knowledge, children. The weight of all the dissolved salts in the water in ratio of parts per thousand of water is called the salinity of seawater. See, it has not been measured in grams or something like that. It has been measured in per thousand of water. That is called the salinity of the seawater. And how it has been measured? For example, if the weight of the dissolved salt is say 1000 gram, that is 1 kg of seawater is 40 gram, then the salinity is 40%, that is 40 per thousand parts. So the equipments which have been used, the first one is the hydrometer. You can see in the first image hydrometer, second one refractometer, and third one is salinometer. So these are the different equipments which have been given here with which we can measure the salinity of the sea, how much amount of salt present in the sea is there. It is more or less, the salinity is high or less. Children, here are the few questions which are seeing to the map you have to answer. What is the salinity around the tropics? Tropics means your torrid zone and all which comes to equator, temperate zone. So when we are being asked this question, the salinity around the tropics is 36%. When you will see the map, you will be able to answer this, because everywhere when the Tropic of Cancer, Capricorn, accordingly it changes. You will see the line of the tropics as it's go upward and downward from the equator. It is round about 36 everywhere. So it comes to the 36 around the tropics. The next question is, which region has the least salinity, means the less salinity? So it is the Bay of Bengal has the least salinity, that is 32%, sorry. Because see children, it has not been mentioned in that world map. It is Bay of Bengal, but where it is 32 written, it comes to the lower part of the India, where the Indian southern part of the India comes, and that is the Bay of Bengal. So you have to put down which region has the least salinity is Bay of Bengal. Above the Indian Ocean it comes. Then you have which ocean has the salinity more than 37%. That is, the Atlantic Ocean has the salinity more than 37%. On the world map it has been given somewhere 37%, but it is more than 37% also. Now next question has been given, what are the reasons of differences in the salinity on the global level? So for this children, the answer is the uneven distribution of the temperature on the earth. See, as I told you in my starting of the lesson only, when we were dealing about the globe, when we were having the deep study related to the globe, that time only I told you that the uneven distribution of the temperature on the earth, it is not uniform everywhere. So uneven supply of the fresh water. See, fresh water supply means through the rain only, and it is not equal in all the part of the earth. So etc. are the reasons for the difference of the salinity on the global level. So here we come to know all the answers of this question. Children, here is think about it. If we collect all the salt in the ocean, as you must have seen in the world map, how many different types of oceans are there. So if we try to collect all the salts of the ocean, and if we weight it will be somewhere around, it is not exact number given children, it is on an average 120 million tons. Now how will you understand what is the meaning of 120 million tons? If we spread it on the earth, it will form 150 meter thick layer, almost equivalent to 40-story building. As you can see here, 40-story building. This will be this much thick will be the layer of the salt. And from where have this salt come in the seas? From the oceans. Children, here we have the geographical explanation. The uneven distribution of the temperature of the earth, uneven supply of the fresh water, etc. affects the salinity of the seawater, as we have seen right now in the experiment also. In the tropical zone, the temperature is higher and the rate of evaporation is also higher. Therefore, the salinity is also higher. Around 5 degrees north and south of the equator, in the equatorial calm belt, the sky is cloudy for the longer period of time and the convectional rainfall occurs every day. Now, what do you mean by convectional rainfall? Means at the same time you will experience the sun rays, brighter sun rays, and it's raining also. So that is what we call as the convectional rainfall. Large rivers like Congo, Amazon in the equatorial regions meet the sea. The supply of fresh water is abundant. Why abundant? Because on the equatorial region, the overall full year the rainfall keeps on going. So that is the reason the supply of fresh water is abundant. Because of higher temperature, the rate of evaporation is more. The sea in these areas are more saline. Why? Because the rate of evaporation is also more, and the temperature is whole day around it's more only, because it is the equatorial belt and the sun rays directly fall in this part. In the mid latitudinal zone, that is 25 to 35 degree north and south, rainfall is less and the supply of fresh water from the rivers is also low. So this zone has hot deserts of the world. So all this area comes in the desert part of the earth, where the rainfall is less, supply of fresh water is also less, and the rivers also are very less. So this comes under 25 to 35 degree north and south. So the salinity of the sea is found to be higher here. Obviously the fresh water amount is less, so the salinity will be more, because water is less and the amount of salt is more. If the temperature in the temperate regions, the sun rays are slanting and therefore the temperature are lower. See, on the equatorial it is straight, parallel, whereas in the temperate zone it is slant rays. So the temperature is lower. Because of the melting of the snow, the supply of fresh water is also more in this zone. So the salinity decreases with the increasing latitudes. So as we go higher and higher, See, the salinity decreases because the melting of the snow keeps on supplying the fresh water more. So the amount of salt decreases. In the polar areas, the temperature is very low. Evaporation is also very less in the polar areas. So salinity becomes, children, it's low because there is no rate of evaporation more, and the amount of salt, though it is present, it is mixed in the water only. The water doesn't get evaporated. That's why the salt, whatever is present, we never get a chance to see it. If the salinity will be higher, the evaporation rate will be more, then you are able to experience the salt present in the water. Otherwise, we won't be.